Welcome. Tonight, you're invited to rest, to set down the weight of your day, and step quietly into a world of stories made for sleep. If you enjoy these journeys, I'd love for you to subscribe, so you'll always have a companion waiting when night returns. As you listen, I'd also invite you to share in the comments where you're drifting off from tonight, and what time you're curling into bed. You're not alone. Dreamers gather here from every corner of the world. This evening, our journey will follow four gentle guardians, silent companions who watch over sleep. A fox of starlight paths, a giant among forgotten fields. The keeper of a quiet sky, and a patient cat who rests with dreamers. Let the stories and sounds guide you deeper into stillness. Your only task now is to rest. The Fox of Starlight Paths. Beneath a sky brushed with silver starlight, a quiet forest stirred with whispers of leaves. Paths wound gently between ancient trees, their roots glowing faintly as if carrying the memory of light. On nights such as this, when the air was still and the world seemed to breathe in unison, a fox emerged. Its fur shimmered with tiny constellations, each step tracing faint sparks across the moss. The fox did not hunt, nor did it seek company. Instead, it carried a lantern glow within its coat, guiding travelers who wandered beneath the trees. Its paws pressed soundlessly into the earth, yet the trail behind seemed to shine, as if the ground remembered its passing. Those fortunate enough to glimpse it found their steps slowing, their thoughts softening, their hearts lightened by wonder. Legends whispered that the fox was born from a fallen star. When the heavens wept their silver tears across the earth, one drop did not fade. Instead, it grew fur and eyes that mirrored the night sky. Though centuries had passed, the fox never aged. It walked its starlit paths with quiet patience, as though time itself respected its duty to guide the weary into rest. Beneath branches heavy with shadows, the fox moved like a gentle dream. Its presence carried no fear, no urgency. Travelers who met it often found their footsteps becoming lighter, their breaths falling into a calmer rhythm. The air around the fox was hushed, as though the forest itself bowed to its stillness. Even the rustling leaves softened into a lullaby that soothed restless minds. The paths it chose were never straight. They wound in soft curves, weaving between ferns and streams, each turn offering glimpses of glowing mushrooms and pools reflecting the sky. Yet no matter how far the fox led, the way always felt safe. Its light was never harsh. It did not burn nor blind. It was the kind of glow that wrapped travelers like a blanket, quiet and steady. Some said the fox chose its wanderers carefully, appearing only to those carrying burdens too heavy to rest. A lost scholar, weighed down by words. A farmer, weary from endless seasons. A child, holding fears that grew larger than dreams. The fox guided each without judgment. It did not speak, for no voice was needed. Its silence was a language of comfort. One traveler once wrote that following the fox felt like being led into sleep itself. Each step down its path was like drifting deeper beneath layers of comfort. The forest no longer seemed daunting, but became a soft cradle of shadows and starlight. With every pause, the fox glanced back with eyes that shimmered like constellations, inviting the traveler to trust and follow. At times, the fox disappeared into the mist, leaving behind only a glow that lingered long enough to guide the way. The air would cool, the night would deepen, yet the sense of calm never faded. The path itself seemed to hum with the fox's memory, steadying those who walked it. By the time it returned, the traveler often found themselves already home. The forest under the fox's watch felt eternal. Trees stretched high, their branches tangled with stars. Small streams reflected the shimmer of its coat, rippling softly with every pause dip. The fox was not hurried, never rushed its wanderers. Each pause became a chance to breathe, to let thoughts drift away. In its company, time unraveled, leaving only stillness and ease. When the fox's journey ended, it always led travelers to a clearing where the sky opened wide. There, the stars shone brighter than anywhere else, as though gathered in gratitude. The fox would linger only a moment, its constellation flecked, fur glowing warmly. Then, with quiet grace, it faded back into the forest, leaving its companions surrounded by starlight and sleep. In the silence after the fox's departure, the clearing held a peace that clung like dew. The air carried the scent of moss and faint blossoms, and the skies stretched endlessly above, painted in silver. Travelers often lay back in the grass, gazing upward, their eyelids growing heavy. It felt as if the fox's gift was not the path alone, but the permission to rest without worry. Some said the fox was a guardian of forgotten wishes. Every star upon its coat represented a dream once whispered into the night. As it walked, those stars glimmered faintly, echoing the voices of countless dreamers. The light was not loud but soft, like memory itself. To walk behind the fox was to feel gently remembered, as though the universe had not forgotten your place. On nights when the moon was hidden, the fox's glow became the only light in the forest. It did not blaze like a flame. Instead, it shimmered like frost, coating each branch and stone with a silvery touch. The darkness no longer threatened, but invited rest. Even shadows seemed softened, folding themselves into shapes that comforted instead of frightened. Those who followed the fox spoke of feeling lifted, as if their burdens weighed less with every step. Sorrow dimmed, and the sharp edges of thought rounded into calm. The fox gave nothing material, carried no treasure, yet its gift was greater. It allowed weary hearts to loosen their grip, to lay down what had been carried too long, and to sink into gentler silence. The forest seemed endless, yet with the fox leading, distance held no meaning. Hours slipped into one another unnoticed. Time bent like branches overhead, holding the night in place. The steady glow of starlit fur and the rhythm of soft paws against earth became the only markers. Each sound, each shimmer, lulled wanderers deeper into a dreamlike trance. It was said the fox never returned by the same path twice. Each journey was unique, winding through hidden glades or quiet meadows. Yet every road carried the same feeling: safety, calm, and trust. The forest revealed wonders only to those who followed. Sometimes it was the hush of an unseen stream. Other times it was the sudden bloom of flowers glowing in moonlight. Travelers often could not recall where their journey began, only that it led them somewhere kinder. The forest blurred behind them, yet the feeling of peace lingered. Memories softened like ink washed in rain. All that remained was a sense of having been cared for, guided without demand. The fox did not ask for gratitude. It gave freely, like starlight falling through branches. One legend told of a wanderer who followed the fox for many nights, each step guiding them farther from sorrow. When dawn finally came, they found themselves at the edge of a vast meadow filled with wildflowers swaying in golden light. Though the fox had vanished, the peace of its journey remained. They carried it home, and their dreams grew gentler ever after. The fox itself never spoke, yet its silence was filled with meaning. It was the pause between heartbeats, the stillness of a breath taken in trust. To walk with the fox was to understand that quiet could be a gift, not an absence. Every moment stretched soft and unhurried, until thoughts themselves settled, folding like wings at rest. As dawn neared, the fox often led wanderers to rest beneath tall trees where morning light trickled through. It would pause, its coat dimming as stars faded. Then, without sound, it would slip away, leaving only paw prints glowing faintly in the moss. Those who awoke there spoke of peace that lingered long after sunrise, as if part of the night still walked beside them. On rare nights, the fox's path wound toward hills where the sky opened wider and stars seemed to lean closer. The air grew thin and cool, filled with the faint hum of distant constellations. Travelers described it as if the heavens themselves breathed softly above them. The fox paused there often, its fur glowing brighter, as though drawing strength from the endless sky. In the hush of these higher places, even wind softened to a sigh. Grass bent under invisible currents, shimmering with dew that glowed like pearls. The fox moved carefully, each step unhurried, as though savoring the stillness. Those who followed found their own pace slowing, every heartbeat stretching longer, their thoughts untangling with the rhythm of the night around them. When the moon rose in silver arcs, the fox's coat reflected its glow, weaving together starlight and moonlight until it seemed cloaked in liquid light. The forest path became a ribbon of silver, guiding wanderers forward. The moonlit journey felt endless and safe, a reminder that night could cradle instead of conceal, soothing every restless whisper of the mind. Sometimes the fox led wanderers near rivers that wound like silver serpents through the dark. The water carried reflections of countless stars, broken into ripples with each drift of current. Watching them was like watching dreams being carried away, slow and steady. The fox always paused there, allowing travelers to drink in the calm, as if washing their hearts in the river's stillness. Near the water, fireflies appeared, their small lanterns flickering with a rhythm that matched the beating of a quiet heart. They seemed to greet the fox, dancing around it in arcs of golden light. The glow blended with the stars on its fur until it was difficult to know where fox ended and sky began. Wanderers stood entranced, their burdens falling into silence. As night deepened, a soft mist sometimes rolled in, curling round trees and weaving between roots. It did not obscure the fox's path, for its glow shone steadily through. The mist seemed to listen, absorbing every worry and thought that lingered in the air. By the time travelers stepped beyond it, they felt lighter, as if the mist had taken away their weariness. The fox's path often ended in a place where the forest thinned and the sky widened into a field of stars. There the silence grew profound, wrapping wanderers like a second skin. The fox would sit for a moment, eyes reflecting constellations. It did not rush them forward, but allowed them to linger, to breathe the vastness until their hearts matched the quiet around them. Travelers described those final pauses as moments of complete stillness, when even their own thoughts seemed to dissolve. No past, no future, only the endless night and the glow of starlight. It was as if the fox held back the world for a few breaths, creating a pocket of peace that lingered long after waking. dreams often carried the same hush into morning. The fox's return to the forest was always gentle. It slipped into shadows that welcomed it, its glow fading but never vanishing completely. For a while, the moss retained its shimmer, paw prints, soft as whispers, pressed into the ground. Eventually, even that faded, leaving only the memory of being guided through stillness, of being safe within the arms of night. For those who sought it again, the fox never came twice in the same way. Sometimes it appeared in meadows, sometimes in groves. It was never bound by place, only by the hearts that needed it. Travelers came to understand that the fox was not only a guide, but a promise that rest would always be offered when most needed, carried in the quiet steps of starlight. On some nights, the fox appeared beneath skies filled with drifting clouds that parted like curtains to reveal hidden stars. Its glow blended with the breaks in the clouds, creating shifting pools of light along the ground. Wanderers often felt as though they were walking inside a dream, where sky and earth traded places in silence. Beneath those shifting heavens, the fox's presence was steady. No matter how shadows bent or how clouds swallowed the moon, its starlit fur shone with quiet certainty. Travelers spoke of how their breath synced with its pace, their steps falling in rhythm until the journey felt less like walking and more like floating between worlds. There were times when owls followed the fox from the treetops, their wings silent but their eyes bright with watchfulness. They perched above as if honoring its path. Their presence lent the night a deeper calm, each hoot echoing softly, not as a warning but as a lullaby. Wanderers felt guarded, their dreams already beginning before sleep claimed them. The forest floor sometimes glittered faintly, strewn with petals that glowed in moonlight. It was said the fox's paws awakened them, coaxing their glow from within. Each step became a lantern, and the path unfolded in blossoms of silver and pale blue. To follow that trail was to feel wrapped in a gentle procession, a ceremony of peace beneath the night. When wind brushed through the branches, it carried whispers that many mistook for voices. In truth, it was the forest echoing the fox's presence, amplifying its quiet power. The air shimmered with stillness, as though urging travelers to listen. What they heard was not words, but a hush that smoothed their thoughts into softer shapes. Sometimes the fox's path passed ancient stones covered in moss and thyme. These markers, half buried and forgotten, glowed faintly as it approached. Legends said the fox remembered places long erased from memory, and in its presence the stones hummed softly as if touched by starlight. Wanderers felt history itself bow into silence, folding them deeper into rest. Each journey with the fox carried its own ending, yet none felt final. Travelers often awoke in their own beds, unable to recall how they had returned. What remained was the glow of peace, like embers kept warm inside the heart. They spoke of the fox only in whispers, as though naming it too loudly might break the fragile gift it had given. A rare few claimed they had followed the fox all the way to a horizon where forests gave way to endless sky. There they stood at the edge of sleep itself, gazing into an expanse without fear. The fox did not lead them farther, but simply sat beside them, offering company as they let go of wakefulness and stepped into dreams. Travelers who never saw the fox sometimes felt its presence all the same. They would wake from dreams of starlit paths, their hearts calm, their breaths deep and slow. It was said the fox walked unseen through the world, guiding even those who never glimpsed its glowing fur. Its gift was not appearance, but the steady hand of rest. In time, stories of the fox spread like quiet ripples, not told loudly, but whispered at bedsides, passed between those who needed comfort most. Each retelling was different, yet each carried the same heart, a fox of starlight, guiding the weary through night toward peace. The tale became not just legend, but a lullaby, forever waiting at the edge of sleep. When winter wrapped the forest in frost, the fox's glow softened into a silver haze that mirrored snowflakes drifting from the branches. Each paw print pressed into the frozen ground shimmered briefly before fading. Travelers who followed felt the cold lose its edge, as though the fox's light wove warmth into the night, carrying them deeper into quiet. In spring, when blossoms covered the forest floor, the fox's presence felt like a gentle breath, stirring petals into motion. Pink and white swirled around its glowing path, drifting like falling stars. Wanderers slowed, enchanted by the soft rain of flowers, their burdens lifted as easily as petals caught on a breeze, leaving only stillness behind. At times, the fox lingered near waterfalls where silver streams plunged into deep pools. Mist curled upward, touched by starlight, wrapping wanderers in veils of calm. The roar of the water, soft by distance, became a steady heartbeat beneath the night. Standing there, travelers often felt their thoughts dissolve, replaced with the simple rhythm of flowing water. Some nights, the fox guided paths through fields of tall grass that swayed in slow waves. Its glow rippled across the blades, creating the illusion of stars moving across the earth. The hush of grass brushing together formed a lullaby, its cadence syncing with footsteps. Each sway of the field deepened the sense of being rocked into sleep. The fox often paused at hidden groves where fireflies gathered, their tiny lights flickering in playful constellations. They danced around it in arcs that mirrored the sky above, as if the heavens had descended for a moment to rest in the forest. Wanderers stood entranced, lulled by the beauty of lights both near and far, their minds quieted into awe. Legends said the fox's stars shifted over time, each representing a dream fulfilled or a burden lifted. When its fur glowed brightest, it meant many hearts had been calmed. To see the fox then was to witness a living sky carrying hope across its silent body. Those who followed felt as though their own worries had joined the stars to fade away. Sometimes the fox vanished into the depths of shadow, leaving wanderers momentarily alone. Yet the path it left behind glowed faintly, a reminder that guidance lingered even in absence. Those moments of solitude became part of the gift, teaching travelers to carry stillness within themselves. When the fox returned, they were already walking more gently. When thunder rolled in distant skies, the fox's glow grew steadier, its pace slower. Rain fell softly through leaves, pattering like whispered notes. The fox did not hide from the storm, but wove through it with calm assurance. Wanderers discovered that storms, too, could soothe their rhythms, joining the lullaby of night until rest felt inevitable. At the heart of the forest, where roots intertwined like veins of the earth, the fox once led a traveler to a hollow tree glowing within a light. The tree's core pulsed gently, as though holding the dream of the forest itself. There the fox sat, and silence deepened into something eternal. The traveler later recalled it as the night they learnt true stillness. When dawn finally touched the horizon, the fox often slipped away unseen, yet its presence remained like a fragrance in the air, faint but undeniable. Travellers woke as though from the gentlest dream, carrying peace into waking hours. Some wondered if the fox had ever truly been real, yet the calm it left behind was proof enough of its silent gift. There were nights when stars seemed to fall closer, casting the forest in shifting bands of silver. The fox moved through them with ease, as though it belonged as much to the sky as to the earth. Wanderers felt the veil between worlds grow thin, and their steps turned lighter, as though they too were drifting between starlight and soil. At hidden ponds, the fox's glow shimmered across water still as glass. Reflections stretched outward, blending sky and earth until no line remained. Looking into those mirrored surfaces, travellers often felt themselves dissolving into the night, their boundaries softening. The fox stood calm at the edge, patient until their gaze drifted into rest. Sometimes the fox's path wound along ridges where the view stretched far into shadowed valleys. The world below glowed faintly, lanterns in distant villages blinking like stars upon the ground. Wanderers stood there in awe, realizing they were not alone. Even across great distances, others too were resting, their lights part of the same quiet tapestry. Beneath ancient oaks, roots coiled like the arms of giants, long asleep. The fox walked between them, weaving a path that felt protected by age itself. The air was thick with history, yet softened by moss and silence. Wanderers who walked there often felt themselves held, as though the earth cradled them with the same care as the fox's guiding glow. On warm summer nights, the fox's trail filled with the sound of cicadas humming in low, endless tones. Their chorus matched the rhythm of the journey, steady and soothing. The fox paused often, letting the sounds stretch across the night. To follow then was to walk within a living lullaby, each note carrying the traveller deeper into rest. Occasionally, the fox's glow drew in deer that emerged silently from the trees. They stood still, eyes reflecting light, calm and unafraid. For a moment, wanderers felt surrounded by guardians, every creature sharing in the stillness. The fox moved on quietly, yet the feeling of being watched over lingered long after the deer faded back into the forest. Along certain paths, the fox's paws brushed fallen leaves that stirred as though sighing in relief. Their faint rustles blended with the night's quiet song, creating a rhythm that matched the slowing breath of travellers. Each step became an invitation to release tension, to let the forest carry away all that weighed too heavily to bring into dreams. When the fox paused in meadows filled with tall wildflowers, their petals swayed in unseen currents, brushing lightly against each other. Their fragrance rose gently, blending with the cool night air. The fox sat for a while among them, eyes reflecting stars. Wanderers often lay down there, letting the flowers whisper around them, until sleep overtook their senses. The fox was said to appear most brightly in places where sorrow had lingered. There its glow shone steady, as if absorbing what pain remained. Those who followed noticed their sadness, dull, reshaped into something softer. By dawn they no longer carried the same weight. The fox had not erased it, but had taught them how to hold it gently. At last, the fox's path often ended at quiet glades, where moonlight poured like liquid silver. It would stand still, fur shimmering as though every star in the sky had gathered within it. Then, with one final glance, it stepped into the shadows, leaving its companions bathed in light. Sleep would claim them there, safe beneath its silent blessing. In some tales, the fox was seen walking across bridges of moonlight, its paws leaving ripples that faded into the air. Those who dreamed of this place awoke with hearts lighter, as if the fox had guided them across a hidden threshold. It was said that the bridge did not lead anywhere, but rather into a deeper stillness where rest was endless. Sometimes the fox's glow lingered in the eyes of those it guided. They carried the memory into waking, finding comfort in the smallest moments: flicker of starlight on glass, the hush of wind in trees. These reminders became signals of calm, like the fox whispering from afar that peace was never far away. Travelers who followed the fox often spoke of hearing faint melodies in the night. They were not songs, but gentle hums that blended with the forest. Some said the fox itself carried the music, though no mouth moved. The sound was less attuned than a vibration, resonating through heart and bone, lulling listeners deeper into rest. Legends told that the fox never aged because it belonged to no single night. It walked across all evenings at once, a thread of light weaving through time itself. Wanderers who glimpsed it were stepping briefly outside of ours, carried into a timeless pocket of calm. For them, the memory remained forever, even as the nights moved on. One story claimed that the fox's stars were not only dreams but lanterns for souls too weary to shine on their own. When its fur glittered, it was carrying burdens for countless others, offering them space to sleep without fear. The fox was never diminished by this task. Its gift was endless, and it gave without hesitation. In quiet glens, the fox sometimes circled its wanderers, tracing glowing patterns into the moss. When it finished, the shapes resembled constellations, stories written in light. The travelers who lay down within them fell asleep quickly, as though the sky itself had drawn them into its arms. The fox vanished soon after, leaving the stars to keep watch. Some believed the fox walked not only in forests, but through dreams themselves. Those who had never seen it while awake often met it in slumber, padding gently through their visions, turning nightmares aside with a sweep of its tail. It left paw prints in dreamscapes, soft trails that lingered until morning, carrying safety into waking hours. At the edge of many tales, the fox was described as vanishing into a horizon painted with dawn. As its glow faded, the stars dissolved with it, melting into the pale light of morning. Wanderers often woke at that moment, the sense of peace still warm inside them. The fox, they said, did not disappear, it simply returned to the next night. Though countless travelers told their stories, none agreed on what the fox truly was. Some called it a spirit, others a guardian. A few believed it was the night itself, given form to guide those who struggled to rest. Yet no matter the name, all agreed that its presence was gentle and its gift unshakable calm. So the tale of the Fox of Starlight Paths continues, passed from voice to voice, from dreamer to dreamer, whether found in forests, meadows, or the quiet corners of imagination. It remains a promise that even in the deepest dark, a guide of gentle light walks with us. And when the world grows heavy, it will return to lead us once more into sleep. The giant who guards forgotten fields, beyond the reach of bustling towns, where paths faded into grasses and the horizon stretched wide, lay the forgotten fields. No plough touched their soil, no fence marked their edges. Only the night wind moved there, carrying whispers across endless rows of tall stalks. In that silence lived a giant, timeless and patient, who watched over the land with steady calm. The giant's form was vast, yet gentle, his body shaped like the earth itself. Moss grew across his shoulders, and wildflowers bloomed in the folds of his cloak. His footsteps sank deep into the soil, but they left no scar. Instead, plants grew taller where he walked, as if nourished by his passing. He was less a master of the land and more its guardian. By day, the giant rested in hollows where sunlight painted golden seas of grass. He slept with eyes closed, blending into the fields as though he were simply another hill. But by night, he rose to his full height, his gaze reaching far across the plains. Stars crowned his brow, and his breath mingled with the cool air, carrying peace into the fields. Travelers who stumbled upon the fields often spoke of feeling watched but never afraid. The giant's presence carried no threat, only reassurance. His shadow moved slowly, cast wide across the ground, stretching like shelter over wanderers who had lost their way. Beneath his gaze, even the restless found their shoulders easing, their steps softening into stillness. Legends said the giant had once been a farmer who tilled the earth with love, feeding countless villagers. When time grew weary, he laid himself down among his fields, and the land embraced him. The earth reshaped his body into something vast, granting him eternal rest and purpose. From then on, he rose only to protect the silence of his fields. When winds swept through the tall grasses, they bent in waves around the giant's legs, rippling like seas beneath him. He would kneel and run his vast hands through them, his touch as light as mist. The fields responded, swaying in rhythm as though sighing in contentment. The sound of grass brushing together became a lullaby that carried for miles. Wanderers often found that time dissolved in the giant's presence. Minutes stretched into hours without notice. The simple act of watching him breathe, slow and steady, calmed even the most troubled heart. Each rise and fall of his chest seemed to slow the world itself, drawing travelers deeper into peace, their worries dissolving like mist in morning sun. The giant's voice was rarely heard, for he spoke not in words but in gestures, a nod that stilled the wind, a raised hand that hushed the fields, a slow lowering of his great body to the earth. Each movement carried weight, yet it was never heavy. To witness him was to learn that silence could be more soothing than any sound. At night, fireflies gathered near the giant's feet, swirling in circles of golden light. They lit the grasses in patterns that resembled constellations, flickering in time with the stars above. Travelers who rested there described feeling as though the sky had descended to earth, wrapping them in a blanket of flickering calm. Beneath the giant's watch, sleep came easily. Those who fell asleep in the fields often dreamed of walking beside the giant, their steps tiny against his stride, yet never hurried. In dreams, he led them across meadows and valleys, each step slowing their thoughts until the dream itself faded into rest. They woke with memories too soft to grasp, but the peace of his presence lingered long after. During autumn nights, the fields shimmered with pale gold as the grasses dried and bent beneath the giant's watch. He moved more slowly then, as though savoring the season's quiet beauty. Each step released the scent of earth and grain, filling the air with a fragrance that travelers carried into their dreams, comforting as a hearth fire. When rain fell softly across the fields, the giant raised his cloak, sheltering small creatures beneath it. Birds, hares, and foxes huddled close, warmed by the quiet strength of his presence. His form loomed large against the mist, but never with menace. Instead, he seemed to fold the entire field into his embrace, keeping all safe as the rain whispered on. On clear nights, when the sky stretched endlessly above, the giant lifted his gaze and became still as stone. His eyes reflected stars, glowing faintly as though he held their light within. Those who saw him then spoke of feeling smaller than ever before, but in the gentlest way part of something vast, part of a night that held no fear. Legends told of a hidden well in the fields, said to be older than memory. The giant often sat beside it, his reflection shimmering in the water. When he leaned close, the stars above seemed to ripple across his face. Travelers who peered into the well saw not themselves, but quiet visions of dreams waiting to cradle them into slumber. At dusk, shadows stretched long, turning the grasses into rivers of deepening blue. The giant's form blended with the horizon, his outline visible only by the faint glow of fireflies. He walked then with the slowest steps, letting night settle gently across the fields. For those watching, it felt like the world itself was being tucked carefully into sleep. The giant's hands, broad as rolling hills, sometimes pressed gently against the ground. Where his palms met the soil, warmth spread outward, and the grasses glowed faintly with life. Wanderers resting there felt the earth's heartbeat beneath them, steady and deep, a reminder that they were carried by something far larger and endlessly patient. Travelers often described hearing faint humming in the air, though no voice could be found. They came to believe it was the giant himself, his breath transformed into song. It was not a melody, but a vibration, like the sound of the earth exhaling. That low hum wrapped around them, loosening the last knots of thought until rest became unavoidable. When the moon was full, its silver glow rested on the giant's shoulders like a mantle. He appeared crowned in light, his every movement traced by a shimmer. The fields glowed in response, grasses gleaming as though lit from within. To walk under that light was to feel suspended between earth and sky, cradled in a dream that would not fade. In winter, snow blanketed the fields, muffling every sound. The giant moved slowly, his form dusted in white, until he seemed carved from the landscape itself. Even his breath turned to soft clouds that drifted upward. For travelers, the silence was absolute, holding them gently. In that stillness, even the busiest minds surrendered to calm. Some said the giant never truly slept, but kept one part of himself awake always. His eyes might close, his body might sink into the soil, but his awareness lingered like the wind. It was not a burden, but his purpose to watch over the forgotten fields, to be the steady presence that guided all who wandered there into peace. At times the giant knelt low, placing his ear to the ground. He listened not to words, but to the deep rhythm of roots stretching through the soil. The sound was slow and steady, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Travelers who lingered nearby often found their own hearts falling into rhythm, each beat slower, each breath deeper. When fog rolled across the plains, it wrapped the fields in silver veils. The giant's outline loomed faintly through the haze, vast yet softened. His glow guided wanderers gently, each step echoing with a hush. Surrounded by mist and quiet, they felt suspended in a dream, walking without urgency, their bodies surrendering to the pull of sleep. In some seasons, owls perched on the giant's shoulders, their wings silent against the night. They gazed outward with him, guardians of the darkness. Their presence added another layer of calm, their hoots low and steady. Travelers swore the owl's calls blended with the giant's breath, weaving a lullaby that floated over the fields for miles. The grasses themselves seemed to respond to his passing. When the giant moved, their heads bent slightly, swaying in unison as though bowing. When he stood still, they stilled as well, frozen in perfect harmony. This quiet exchange between guardian and field reminded wanderers that balance could be found in the simplest of rhythms. Occasionally, a lone star blazed brighter above the fields, casting a pale line of light down to the earth. The giant would pause beneath it, his head tilted back. In that moment, the vastness of sky and the grounded strength of soil seemed to meet within him. Wanderers resting nearby often drifted into dreams, carried by the joining of earth and sky. Legends claimed the giant's cloak was stitched from the night itself. When he lifted it, the stars wavered across its folds, shimmering like dew. If he wrapped the cloak around the fields, the entire landscape hushed, as though the world itself had been tucked beneath a blanket. In such nights, travelers slept soundly, untouched by worry. By rivers cutting through the fields, the giant sometimes dipped his hand into the water, sending ripples across the surface. The ripples spread far, carrying moonlight in long arcs. Wanderers who watched said the water's rhythm echoed in their minds, flowing slowly until their thoughts followed its gentle current into stillness. The air around the giant often carried scents of crushed herbs and grasses released under his steps. Lavender, sage, and mint mingled with earth, subtle but soothing. For weary travelers, each breath became medicine, a calming balm that eased muscles and quieted hearts. The fields became more than ground, they became a cradle of rest. When storms passed through, lightning flickered far away, never striking the fields themselves. The giant raised his arms high, his silhouette towering, as though holding the horizon apart. Travelers felt no fear beneath his protection, only the steady reassurance that he absorbed the storm's weight. The thunder softened, blending with the rhythm of rain into a lullaby. At times, the giant was seen resting with his head against the earth, his eyes closed and breath slow. Fireflies gathered around him in spirals, drifting like stars drawn close to listen. Those who saw this swore the entire field grew quieter, as if honoring his stillness. For wanderers, it was impossible not to fall into sleep beside such peace. When dawn's first light touched the edges of the fields, the giant often sank into the earth, his vast body folding like a hill, returning to soil. He did not vanish, but blended with the land, his breath slow as the morning grew. Travelers who awoke nearby often felt as though they had been carried through the night by unseen hands. At twilight, when the sky deepened into violet, the giant rose once more, his outline glowing faintly against the fading horizon. His presence seemed woven into the colors of the evening, as if dusk itself leaned on him for strength. Wanderers often paused in awe, their rest beginning before they even lay down. Legends whispered that the giant kept the memory of every traveler who ever passed through the fields. Each footstep was absorbed into the soil, each sigh folded into the grasses. Though he never spoke, his silence carried those memories, offering comfort that no soul was forgotten, no dream left unheard beneath his watch. Sometimes, when the wind carried distant songs of birds settling into nests, the giant lifted his head and listened. The melodies blended with the steady hush of the grasses, wrapping the fields in harmony. Wanderers felt as though they, too, were part of this quiet chorus, their own breathing a note in the night's endless song. The fields themselves seemed endless, stretching farther than the eye could see. Yet those who wandered with the giant never felt lost. His towering form anchored them, guiding each step with calm assurance. Even when the horizon blurred into mist, his presence stood as a beacon, reminding them that stillness was always near. When the moon climbed high and pale light covered the fields, the giant's shadow spread across the land like a second night. It did not darken, but softened, wrapping wanderers in a cocoon of shade. Within that shadow, the world felt quieter, safer, as if nothing hurried and nothing demanded, only the rhythm of rest remained. Occasionally, small animals curled into the giant's footprints, finding warmth in the earth he touched. Rabbits, foxes, and birds rested there, trusting the traces of his presence. For travelers who saw this, the sight brought reassurance that all creatures found peace under his care, each footprint becoming a cradle of calm. When stars shimmered faintly through shifting clouds, the giant would tilt his head back, his eyes mirroring constellations. Wanderers watching him often felt their own thoughts scatter like stars, distant and harmless. The vastness of the sky seemed to settle inside them, carrying them deeper into a state where dreams flowed freely. The grasses often brushed against the giant's legs, whispering in tones only he seemed to understand. He answered with silence, his stillness deeper than words. To those who walked nearby, it felt like the earth and its guardian was speaking in a language too ancient to know, yet one that soothed the heart effortlessly. When quiet finally settled over the fields, and every insect stilled its song, the giant stood motionless, his form blending with night. His silence was complete, heavy, and kind. Wanderers who reached this moment surrendered without effort, their bodies easing into the same stillness. It was as if the world itself had exhaled, carrying them into dreams. Some nights the giant carried a lantern carved from stone, glowing softly with fireflies that drifted inside. He held it high, its golden light spilling across the grasses in gentle arcs. Wanderers described the sight as a moving sunrise, though softened and slowed, guiding them through the dark without urgency, only comfort. In summer's heat, the giant often rested beneath towering trees at the edge of the fields. The canopy spread wide, rustling gently above his head. He leaned against the trunks, his breath steady as wind swayed the branches. For travelers, the sound became a lullaby, each creak and rustle pulling them further into calm. Occasionally, the giant cupped water from streams that threaded the fields, letting it trickle from his palms like silver rain. The sound was soft and steady, each drop landing in a rhythm as natural as breathing. Wanderers fell asleep to that sound, their dreams flowing like the streams themselves, cool and When fog thickened, it clung to the giant like a second cloak. His glowing outline floated through the haze, a gentle beacon in the mist. Travelers followed the soft light, their own footsteps muffled until it felt like they were gliding. The mist erased distance, carrying them easily into sleep as the world blurred around them. The giant sometimes traced circles into the soil with his fingertips. Where he touched, grasses bent, forming spirals that remained long after he moved on. Travelers who lay within those circles drifted quickly into slumber, as if the spirals themselves carried the rhythm of rest. The land seemed to hold them, coaxing them into dreams. On starless nights, when clouds veiled the sky, the giant's presence became the only light. His form glowed faintly, enough to paint the fields in a soft hue. For wanderers, the glow felt like a hearth fire carried into the open plain, its warmth both real and imagined. Wrapped in that glow, rest always arrived swiftly. Legends said the giant's heartbeats echoed through the soil, too low for ears to hear, but strong enough for the body to feel. Travelers lying in the fields sensed a faint thrum beneath them, steady and slow. The rhythm aligned with their own breathing until their bodies yielded to the deeper pulse, slipping into peaceful sleep. When wild geese crossed the sky in long formations, the giant often looked up, his eyes following their path. Their calls echoed faintly, blending with the hush of the grasses. Wanderers felt as though they, too, were part of that migration, carried along by unseen wings toward a horizon of quiet dreams. Sometimes the giant gathered fallen branches into piles and struck them gently together, creating hollow, resonant sounds. The rhythm was simple, slow, and steady. Wanderers listening nearby often felt their thoughts matching the beat, each tap quieting another racing thought until the sound alone guided them into stillness. At the center of the fields lay a stone circle, ancient and forgotten. The giant often stood there at night, his shadow stretching outward. The circle glowed faintly when he entered, as though remembering him. Travelers resting nearby felt drawn into that ancient calm, as though the stones themselves carried memories of sleep too deep to break. At times the giant knelt low, placing his ear to the ground. He listened not to words, but to the deep rhythm of roots stretching through the soil. The sound was slow and steady, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Travelers who lingered nearby often found their own hearts falling into rhythm, each beat slower, each breath deeper. When fog rolled across the plains, it wrapped the fields in silver veils. The giant's outline loomed faintly through the haze, vast yet softened. His glow guided wanderers gently, each step echoing with a hush. Surrounded by mist and quiet, they felt suspended in a dream, walking without urgency, their bodies surrendering to the pull of sleep. In some seasons, owls perched on the giant's shoulders, their wings silent against the night. They gazed outward with him, guardians of the darkness. Their presence added another layer of calm, their hoots low and steady. Travelers swore the owl's calls blended with the giant's breath, weaving a lullaby that floated over the fields for miles. The grasses themselves seemed to respond to his passing. When the giant moved, their heads bent slightly, swaying in unison as though bowing. When he stood still, they stilled as well, frozen in perfect harmony. This quiet exchange between guardian and field reminded wanderers that balance could be found in the simplest of rhythms. Occasionally, a lone star blazed brighter above the fields, casting a pale line of light down to the earth. The giant would pause beneath it, his head tilted back. In that moment, the vastness of sky and the grounded strength of soil seemed to meet within him. Wanderers resting nearby often drifted into dreams, carried by the joining of earth and sky. Legends claimed the giant's cloak was stitched from the night itself. When he lifted it, the stars wavered across its folds, shimmering like dew. If he wrapped the cloak around the fields, the entire landscape hushed, as though the world itself had been tucked beneath a blanket. In such nights, travelers slept soundly, untouched by worry. By rivers cutting through the fields, the giant sometimes dipped his hand into the water, sending ripples across the surface. The ripples spread far, carrying moonlight in long arcs. Wanderers who watched said the water's rhythm echoed in their minds, flowing slowly until their thoughts followed its gentle current into stillness. The air around the giant often carried scents of crushed herbs and grasses released under his steps. Lavender, sage, and mint mingled with earth, subtle but soothing. For weary travelers, each breath became medicine, a calming balm that eased muscles and quieted hearts. The fields became more than ground, they became a cradle of rest. When storms passed through, lightning flickered far away, never striking the fields themselves. The giant raised his arms high, his silhouette towering, as though holding the horizon apart. Travelers felt no fear beneath his protection, only the steady reassurance that he absorbed the storm's weight. The thunder softened, blending with the rhythm of rain into a lullaby. At times, the giant was seen resting with his head against the earth, his eyes closed and breath slow. Fireflies gathered around him in spirals, drifting like stars drawn close to listen. Those who saw this swore the entire field grew quieter, as if honoring his stillness. For wanderers, it was impossible not to fall into sleep beside such peace. Some nights, travelers dreamed of climbing onto the giant's shoulder, where the horizon stretched endless and calm. From that height, worries shrank to nothing, replaced by the vast sweep of fields and stars. The rocking motion of his steps lulled them further, each stride carrying them deeper into a dream that had no edges. When lightning flickered beyond distant hills, the giant's silhouette glowed faint against the flashes. He stood, unmoved, steady as stone, absorbing the storm's energy into silence. Wanderers nearby felt shielded. The thunder softened into a faraway hum. They drifted into dreams, knowing no chaos could reach them beneath his watch. The giant sometimes bent low to the rivers, dipping his fingers into the current. Water clung to his skin, shimmering like moonlight. As droplets fell, they struck the surface in slow rhythms. For travelers, the sound was hypnotic. A heartbeat echoed in water. Each ripple carried them into the stillness of sleep. In spring, flowers bloomed across his great cloak, opening one by one as he walked. Their fragrance drifted into the air, sweet and calming. Wanderers inhaled deeply, their lungs filled with the gentle perfume of rest. With every breath, their bodies softened, their minds falling into rhythms as natural as the blossoms unfolding. When the moon climbed high, the giant's shadow stretched like a path leading far into the night. Travelers followed it unconsciously, walking as if guided by something greater than themselves. The path felt endless but safe, a quiet road that asked for nothing but surrender. Soon their steps slowed to stillness as sleep overtook them. On rare nights, the giant lifted his face toward the stars and released a sigh so deep it stirred the grasses for miles. The sound carried no words, only release. Wanderers who heard it felt their own burdens fall away. The sigh swept through them like wind through tall grass, leaving only quiet where once there had been weight. Sometimes he pressed his hand flat to the soil, and a faint glow spread outward, illuminating roots and stones. It was as if the earth itself exhaled in response, sharing its hidden calm. Travelers lying close to the ground felt the glow beneath them, a warmth that seeped into their bones and carried them seamlessly into dreams. When dawn approached, the fields filled with pale light, and the giant grew still. His body sank slowly, blending with the land once again. To travelers, it seemed as if he was never truly gone, only resting. The grasses waved in farewell, their sound like the last note of a lullaby that continued long after they awoke. Legends said the giant was eternal because he was not made of flesh, but of memory. Each traveler who found rest in his fields became part of him, their calm adding to his strength. In this way he grew without end, a guardian built from centuries of dreams. To lie in his shadow was to join that timeless peace. So the giant endures, patient and quiet, watching over the forgotten fields. His story lives on in whispers, shared between dreamers, in breaths that slow when the world feels heavy. When eyes close and rest begins to stir, he rises once more, guiding hearts into silence. The fields remain endless and safe, held forever in his gentle care. The keeper of a quiet sky. High above the clouds, where winds softened into whispers, lived the keeper of a quiet sky. He was neither storm nor star, but something in between, a presence shaped from silence. His task was not to command, but to soothe, ensuring the heavens above the sleeping world remained calm, a vast cradle where dreams could drift without fear. The keeper's cloak shimmered faintly, woven from strands of moonlight and dawn. When he spread it wide, the night itself seemed to hush. No tempest rose beneath its folds, no lightning dared to break its peace. Travelers who dreamed of him often felt the same cloak around their hearts, soft and steady, holding them gently in the dark. Stars obeyed his pace, moving slower when he raised his hand, glowing warmer when he lowered it. He did not command them with force, but with quiet presence. They flickered in rhythm with his breath, steady as a heartbeat. Dreamers watching the night sky sometimes found their own thoughts sinking to that rhythm, easing into rest. When clouds drifted aimlessly, the keeper gathered them, pressing their edges smooth until they stretched like sheets across the heavens. Their folds glowed faintly, catching the light of stars. For those below, the sky appeared softened, a vast quilt pulled over the world. The weight of that sky pressed gently, inviting Bodhi's into sleep. The moon was his companion, resting often at his shoulder. Sometimes he cupped it in his hands, brushing away shadows with his thumb until it glowed round and clear. Those who dreamed of him swore they awoke with a lingering sense of silver light, a cool calm that followed them even after morning arrived. Birds who soared too high often found themselves within his presence. He guided them with outstretched palms, turning their wings toward calmer winds. They flew without fear, their cries softened into echoes. Dreamers heard those echoes as lullabies, faint as whispers in their minds, each note carrying them deeper into a quiet place. The keeper's voice was never loud. When storms threatened, he breathed words like mist, and the clouds folded into calm. Rain still fell, but gently, each drop slow as a sigh. Thunder dulled into murmurs, lightning into soft glimmers. Travelers listening from below felt reassured, their hearts steady, their bodies surrendering into the hush of the storm. Sometimes he walked across invisible bridges that stretched between constellations. His steps made no sound, but stars brightened where his feet touched. The sky lit in patterns too vast to name, yet simple in their beauty. Wanderers gazing upward fell asleep before finishing their count, lulled by the soft repetition of light against dark. Legends whispered that he collected fragments of dreams rising like sparks from sleepers below. He held them in his palms, polishing each until it glowed. Then he released them into the sky as new stars. Those who dreamed deeply often awoke, believing they had contributed to the heavens, their rest immortalized as light above. At the edge of night, when dawn threatened to wake the world, the keeper folded his cloak close and dimmed the stars. He guided them to rest, lowering them like lanterns at the end of a vigil. The sky paled, but gently, as though lifting its weight slowly from the earth. For dreamers, it was a seamless passage from sleep into day. On certain nights, comets swept across the heavens, trailing silver dust. The keeper guided their arcs with a flick of his wrist, ensuring their flames burned slow and steady. From below, dreamers saw streaks of light but felt no rush, only a deepening sense of wonder. The sight carried them inward, their thoughts unraveling into peaceful silence. When stars dimmed with weariness, the keeper bent low, brushing them with his fingers until they shone again. His touch was neither fire nor force, but a whisper of calm. Dreamers who felt his presence often woke with a quiet strength, as though a hidden part of them had been tended while they slept. At times, the keeper drew curtains of auroras across the sky, their colors rippling like silk. Greens, blues, and purples shimmered gently, never blinding, always soft. Beneath their glow, wanderers felt as though the heavens themselves were breathing. Each wave of color flowed into their bodies, lulling them with its slow, endless rhythm. Legends told that the keeper never walked alone. Shadows of forgotten constellations moved with him, faint outlines that flared only when he passed. These quiet companions filled the sky with a sense of presence, as though the stars themselves leaned closer. For dreamers below, it felt like the entire night had gathered to keep them safe. On rare nights, clouds carried the scent of rain into the air, though no drops fell. The keeper let the fragrance linger, weaving it with cool breezes. Dreamers inhaled deeply, the earthy scent pressing them further into stillness. Their minds, busy with the day, found rest in that imagined rainfall, a promise of calm without sound. When the world below was restless, filled with noise and unease, the keeper lowered his cloak, dimming the stars into softer points. Darkness spread gently, like ink across water, muffling every disturbance. In that hush, dreamers felt cradled, their anxieties dissolving into the folds of a sky that asked nothing of them but to rest. Sometimes he gathered stray winds that howled along the edges of the night. With slow hands, he wove them into long ribbons, tying them across the sky until the air grew still. Those who lay awake felt the sudden calm, their windows no longer rattling, their rooms no longer disturbed. The silence lulled them quickly into sleep. When the moon waned, its light fading into a thin curve, the keeper kept it safe in his palms. He polished the crescent gently, ensuring it would grow strong again. Dreamers who glimpsed this in their sleep woke with the sense that nothing truly disappears, that every light, once tended, returns in its time. Birds migrating through the night often flew beneath his watch. He cupped the air for them, steadying their long journeys with calm skies. Dreamers below sometimes saw their shadows drifting across the moon and mistook them for dreams taking flight. In truth, both were carried together, wings and thoughts moving under his care. At dawn's arrival, the keeper retreated beyond sight, folding his cloak around himself like a disappearing star. Yet the calm he spread lingered. Dreamers stirred, their breaths slow and even. They did not see him leave, but his work remained in the hush of morning, a memory of quiet skies woven into their waking hearts. When storms rose far on the horizon, the keeper did not banish them. Instead, he guided their edges, softening their reach until thunder rumbled like a distant drum. Dreamers resting below felt no fear in those sounds, only the slow beat of a lullaby carried through clouds, steady and deep as the earth itself. The keeper often traced constellations with his finger, redrawing their lines in the air. Stars flared gently at his touch, then settled brighter than before. Wanderers staring upward sometimes saw shapes shift into unfamiliar patterns, as if the sky itself was rewriting stories for them. These shifting tailies rocked them into slumber. When the world below burned with noise, the keeper opened his cloak and let darkness spill wider. It was not heavy, only soft, a velvet weight pressing away the chaos. The silence spread until even the most restless found themselves breathing slower. Beneath that cover, sleep became not a struggle, but an invitation. Sometimes the keeper brushed his palm across the firmament, scattering trails of faint dust. To dreamers, they appeared as shooting stars that never faded, lingering in slow arcs. Each glow seemed to carry a promise that rest was already on its way. The trails stretched until thoughts blurred, minds folding into their gentle light. When the night grew long, he folded clouds into shapes of gentle animals. Lions became lambs, wolves became doves. The skies transformed into a menagerie of softness, drifting silently across the heavens. Dreamers saw them in their sleep, walking slowly beside them, guardians that carried them farther into rest with each quiet step. The keeper's steps made no sound, but the stars beneath his feet brightened briefly as though pleased by his touch. This simple rhythm, light blooming and fading, carried through the heavens like the beat of a heart. Wanderers gazing up drifted into that pattern, their thoughts quieting into the same pulsing calm. When the air shimmered with heat in summer, the keeper spread his cloak wide and drew cool winds across the night. He brushed warmth into balance, letting breezes move gently over the world. Those lying restless beneath heavy air soon felt relief, their bodies uncoiling as comfort settled over them like a tide. Sometimes the keeper plucked silence from the edges of the void and wove it into threads. He stretched them across the sky like strings of a harp. They did not sound, but their presence vibrated in the hearts of dreamers. That resonance sank into their bones, guiding them steadily toward the deep center of sleep. Leggy said he carried forgotten dreams in jars of starlight. When nights grew heavy, he released them, letting sparks drift downward through the atmosphere. Dreamers caught those fragments unknowingly, their own dreams colored by gentle stories. The night filled not with noise, but with a quiet chorus of borrowed peace. As dawn edged closer, the keeper often stood at the horizon, his cloak wrapped tight around the fading stars. He held the sky steady, letting the light rise slow, never abrupt. Those waking beneath felt as though morning had tiptoed in, careful not to disturb. The shift was seamless, carrying rest into day without break. On nights when the sky seemed endless, the keeper painted faint paths of light across it. They were not roads, but trails of calm, visible only to those drifting in dreams. Travelers following them felt themselves walking steadily into peace, their steps softening until the paths dissolved into the folds of sleep. The keeper sometimes lowered his hands, and the stars dimmed just enough to let darkness deepen. This was no absence, but a soothing shade, a reminder that even light rests. Dreamers beneath felt the same quiet descent into their bodies, like a blanket drawn close, steadying their breath until thoughts faded. At the edges of the heavens, the keeper gathered fragments of forgotten light, weaving them into soft halos. These faint rings circled above the world, glowing without glare. Wanderers saw them only in dreams, sensing comfort without knowing why. Each halo wrapped their hearts gently, coaxing them to drift further inward. Legends said the keeper never hurried the night. When stars moved too quickly, he slowed them with a touch, stretching moments into hours. Dreamers below experienced the same, time easing until it no longer pressed against them. They floated weightless in that slowed rhythm, safe within the drawn-out quiet. When clouds turned restless, the keeper shaped them into wide, drifting blankets. Their edges smoothed, their centers glowed faint with moonlight. To those watching, it seemed the sky had tucked itself in. The sense of being covered, wrapped, and held soothed even the most restless into a calm beyond words. At times he set stars adrift like lanterns, letting them wander slowly across the heavens. They glowed softly, their pace unhurried. Wanderers gazing upward felt their own minds follow the lantern's meandering paths, their thoughts dimming until they too floated weightless, no longer bound to waking. When winds grew sharp, the keeper drew them into his cloak, muffling their edges until only the gentlest breezes remained. Dreamers felt the shift, even in sleep, their breathing softening in response. The hush wrapped around them like a steady tide, rocking them deeper into stillness. The keeper's gaze was said to reach far beyond stars, yet it was never cold. His eyes glowed with quiet warmth, steady as a hearth fire. Dreamers who imagined those eyes often felt safe, as though the very sky itself watched over them, ensuring their sleep was guarded through the long night. Sometimes he plucked a single star and placed it low on the horizon, leaving it to shine brighter than the rest. Dreamers often mistook it for a personal guide, a beacon waiting only for them. Its steady glow became an anchor in their dreams, a point of calm that kept them from drifting too far. At the close of night, the keeper folded his cloak with care, tucking every star into its place. His movements were slow, deliberate, filled with patience. For dreamers, it felt like the world itself was being put to bed, each detail accounted for, nothing forgotten. With that final hush, they slipped soundlessly into morning. When the horizon blurred with mist, the keeper stretched his hands wide, smoothing the haze into silken layers. The sky became soft and seamless, a canvas of muted grays and silver. Dreamers beneath felt their thoughts blur in the same way, edges dissolving until nothing remained but a slow drift into quiet. The keeper sometimes scattered fragments of moonlight across the heavens, letting them fall like gentle sparks. They did not burn, but glowed faintly, drifting downward as if guided by air. Wanderers who dreamed beneath them felt the sparks touch their skin as warmth, sinking inward, carrying the promise of rest. When the night grew heavy with silence, the keeper hummed softly, his voice more vibration than sound. It rippled across the firmament, a resonance too deep for words. Those who slept nearby felt it in their bones, a low rhythm that slowed the heart and eased the mind until even dreams grew lighter. Sometimes he gathered clouds into long ribbons and let them curl slowly through the stars. They moved with the grace of drifting rivers, carrying light within them. Dreamers who saw the ribbons felt as though they floated along too, their bodies weightless, their minds drifting without aim into rest. Legends told of the keeper cupping constellations in his palms, tilting them gently so their light poured down like rain. Dreamers bathed in this glow found themselves refreshed, their minds soothed as if cleansed. The light did not dazzle but comforted, a reminder that even the stars could offer tenderness. When the air trembled with restless winds, the keeper reached upward and wove them into braids. Their knots held firm, taming the air until only soft breezes remained. Beneath this work, wanderers drifted into ease, their own tangled thoughts loosening until all that remained was stillness. At times he pressed his palm against the sky, and faint patterns bloomed outward, rings of light that rippled like waves. Each ring widened and softened, fading as gently as breath on glass. Dreamers felt the same ripples within, spreading calm through every corner of their being. On nights when the stars seemed weary, the keeper lowered his cloak and let darkness deepen. It was not emptiness, but rest, a pause for the sky itself. Dreamers who looked upward saw fewer lights, but felt a greater peace. The silence carried them, a reminder that quiet could be more comforting than brightness. The keeper sometimes bent low, his fingers brushing the horizon where day would rise. His touch slowed the light, letting it creep gently instead of rushing. Sleepers beneath this tender dawn stirred without jolt, waking as though cradled, their hearts calm as they crossed from night into morning. At the end of each night, the keeper folded his presence back into the sky, leaving no trace but peace. Stars faded, clouds stretched thin, and the world below softened into waking. Yet dreamers carried him still, a lingering hush in their breath, a memory of silence that followed them through the day. When the horizon blurred with mist, the keeper stretched his hands wide, smoothing the haze into silken layers. The sky became soft and seamless, a canvas of muted grays and silver. Dreamers beneath felt their thoughts blur in the same way, edges dissolving until nothing remained but a slow drift into quiet. The keeper sometimes scattered fragments of moonlight across the heavens, letting them fall like gentle sparks. They did not burn, but glowed faintly, drifting downward as if guided by air. Wanderers who dreamed beneath them felt the sparks touch their skin as warmth, sinking inward, carrying the promise of rest. When the night grew heavy with silence, the keeper hummed softly, his voice more vibration than sound. It rippled across the firmament, a resonance too deep for words. Those who slept nearby felt it in their bones, a low rhythm that slowed the heart and eased the mind until even dreams grew lighter. Sometimes he gathered clouds into long ribbons and let them curl slowly through the stars. They moved with the grace of drifting rivers, carrying light within them. Dreamers who saw the ribbons felt as though they floated along too, their bodies weightless, their minds drifting without aim into rest. Legends told of the keeper cupping constellations in his palms, tilting them gently so their light poured down like rain. Dreamers bathed in this glow found themselves refreshed, their minds soothed as if cleansed. The light did not dazzle but comforted, a reminder that even the stars could offer tenderness. When the air trembled with restless winds, the keeper reached upward and wove them into braids. Their knots held firm, taming the air until only soft breezes remained. Beneath this work, wanderers drifted into ease, their own tangled thoughts loosening until all that remained was stillness. At times he pressed his palm against the sky, and faint patterns bloomed outward, rings of light that rippled like waves. Each ring widened and softened, fading as gently as breath on glass. Dreamers felt the same ripples within, spreading calm through every corner of their being. On nights when the stars seemed weary, the keeper lowered his cloak and let darkness deepen. It was not emptiness, but rest, a pause for the sky itself. Dreamers who looked upwards saw fewer lights, but felt a greater peace. The silence carried them, a reminder that quiet could be more comforting than brightness. The keeper sometimes bent low, his fingers brushing the horizon where day would rise. His touch slowed the light, letting it creep gently instead of rushing. Sleepers beneath this tender dawn stirred without jolt, waking as though cradled, their hearts calm as they crossed from night into morning. At the end of each night, the keeper folded his presence back into the sky, leaving no trace but peace. Stars faded, clouds stretched thin, and the world below softened into waking. Yet dreamers carried him still, a lingering hush in their breath, a memory of silence that followed them through the day. Some nights, the keeper spread his arms wide, and the sky itself seemed to breathe slower. Stars pulsed gently, clouds drifted without haste, and the moon glowed steady. Dreamers beneath felt their own bodies mimic this rhythm, each breath drawn deeper, each exhale longer, as if the heavens had lent them its calm. He often paused at the edge of the void, gazing into its vast silence. Though endless, it held no fear, only depth. Dreamers who sensed this stillness within their sleep felt the same vastness open inside themselves, a space unburdened by thought where rest could flow without boundary. Sometimes he placed his hand across the sky and traced invisible circles. These unseen patterns carried balance, smoothing out turbulence. Dreamers felt it as a gentle order settling within them, stray thoughts aligning quietly. Their minds moved slower, like water pooling into stillness, leaving only a clear path to sleep. When stars grew faint, he gathered them close and whispered softly, letting them regain their glow. They returned brighter, though never harsh. Dreamers who carried heavy fatigue woke refreshed, as though their own dimmed light had been restored during the night, reignited under his watchful care. Occasionally he leaned close to the world, his presence like a hush pressed against the earth. No animal stirred, no leaf rustled, for the silence was complete. Dreamers felt it too, wrapped in an embrace so deep that even their smallest worries were stilled, absorbed by the vast quiet above. Legend said that the keeper carried forgotten songs within him, melodies too soft to be sung. He released them as vibrations in the air, weaving them through the stars. Dreamers who felt these waves thought they were hearing lullabies from within themselves, a music designed to ease them into surrender. Sometimes he reached into the dark and lifted fragments of night, shaping them into glowing orbs. He set them gently along the horizon, their presence faint but steady. Dreamers who noticed these lights in sleep mistook them for new dawns, soft preludes that promised safety and warmth. Long before morning came, when constellations shifted with the seasons, the keeper guided their paths with patient care. He placed each one carefully, ensuring the heavens remained balanced. Dreamers felt the same sense of order within their minds, an invisible hand arranging their thoughts until all was calm, all was steady, all was quiet. At the very end of night, the keeper let the last stars fade slowly, never rushing their departure. Dreamers stirred as though rising from a cocoon, their breaths steady, their hearts at peace. The sky brightened gently, carrying with it the echo of the silence that had wrapped them through the night. And so the keeper remains, hidden yet present, shaping the heavens with patience. His work is never hurried, his silence never broken. Every night becomes a gift under his care, his sky softened into calm. Dreamers who rest beneath him wake with a piece of that quiet still inside, carried gently into their day. The cat that watches over sleepers. In every town, unseen but always close, the cat that watches over sleepers curls atop rooftops or settles quietly by windows. Its fur glimmers faintly in moonlight, and its slow purr drifts into the rooms below. Dreamers resting beneath its gaze feel protected, as though the night itself has chosen to watch over them. The cat's paws are soundless, stepping across tiles and beams without stirring a single creak. Each movement carries patience, each pause filled with quiet care. When it chooses a spot, the world seems to hush around it. Sleepers beneath this hush sink deeper into calm, their dreams steadied by its presence. Its purr is steady, rising and falling like waves against a distant shore. Though faint, the sound carries into the hearts of sleepers, easing away restless thoughts. Dreamers feel their worries soften, replaced by warmth and comfort, as though the very rhythm of rest has settled upon them. Sometimes it curls near chimneys, tail wrapped neatly around its body, eyes glowing faintly with starlight. From its perch, it surveys the silent town, every rooftop and window bathed in calm. Sleepers never see it, yet they sense the quiet protection that radiates from its steady watch. On nights, when winds rattle, shutters and branches scrape at glass, the cat presses close to window sills. Its steady purr grows louder, drowning out the restless sounds of night. Sleepers stirred by noise drift back into slumber, reassured by the quiet rhythm pulsing just beyond the pane. The cat moves with unhurried grace, lingering wherever it is most needed. Sometimes it chooses the tallest roof, sometimes a humble doorstep. Wherever it rests, silence grows thicker, folding the town into a soft blanket of calm. Sleepers beneath its care find peace waiting for them in the dark. Legends say its eyes reflect the night sky itself, each blink carrying the shimmer of hidden stars. Dreamers who imagine those eyes feel their own minds mirrored back in stillness. Their thoughts slow, their breathing deepens, until rest takes hold as naturally as moonlight, filling an open room. Its presence is never heady. Like a shadow, it drifts without weight, appearing only where quiet is needed most. Sleepers sense this without knowing, their dreams gentler, their hearts steadier. They wake believing the night was kind to them, touched by something soft and unseen. Sometimes the cat sits at the edge of beds in dreams, tail flicking slowly as its eyes glow with calm. Sleepers feel no fear, only comfort, as though they have been given a companion for the journey into rest. Its purr hums through their bones, a steady guide into slumber. At dawn, when morning light spills across rooftops, the cat vanishes into shadows. Its watch is complete, its work done. Sleepers rise unaware of the guardian who kept them safe, but the calm remains in their breath, a quiet gift left by the cat that watched as they dreamed. When the moon is full, the cat's fur shines with a silver glow. From rooftops it seems part of the night itself, blending into shadow yet glimmering softly at the edges. Sleepers below feel this glow enter their dreams, a light that does not wake them but smooths the dark into comfort. Sometimes the cat follows the path of the stars, moving across roofs in rhythm with constellations above. Dreamers who sense this rhythm feel their breaths fall into the same gentle pace. Each inhale becomes slower, each exhale longer, until their bodies yield fully to the pull of sleep. In quiet gardens, it weaves between flowers, brushing petals with its fur. The blossoms lean toward it, glowing faintly as if touched by moonlight. Dreamers wandering through such gardens in their minds find their thoughts blooming into calm shapes, every petal unfolding into silence, guiding them deeper into rest. Its paths leave no prints, yet where it passes, the air grows softer. Crickets still their songs, branches grow still, and windows cease their rattling. Sleepers who hear the sudden quiet feel soothed, as though the cat has hushed the world itself, preparing them for the weightless drift into slumber. On stormy nights, lightning may split the sky, but the cat holds its place unshaken. Its purr deepens, louder than thunder in the hearts of sleepers. The storm fades to a distant murmur, softened by the steady rhythm. Dreamers rest without fear, guarded by the constancy of its watch. The cat is small, yet its presence feels vast. Its steady gaze covers entire streets, alleys, and rooftops, as though no corner of the night lies unguarded. Sleepers dream freely within this invisible circle, their fears scattered, their spirits cradled in the unseen care of the patient watcher. At times it stretches lazily, arching its back beneath the stars. The movement ripples like water, slow and unhurried. Dreamers sense this same looseness in their bodies, muscles softening, tension fading. With each imagined stretch, rest grows nearer, until the dreamer drifts fully into a sea of calm. Its tail curls like a question mark, flicking gently in rhythm with its thoughts. This small motion seems to weave calm into the air itself. Dreamers feel the motion without seeing it, a rhythm that seeps into their dreams, turning restlessness into quiet, their minds gently steered toward stillness. When lamps go dark and the last window closes, the cat claims the town as its own. It walks silently through the sleeping streets, its eyes twin lanterns that never flicker. Dreamers sense this quiet rule, feeling as though the night is steadier, the darkness softened by its careful steps. As dawn approaches, the cat finds a final perch, watching the horizon brighten. Its purr slows, softer now, fading with the shadows. Sleepers begin to stir, carrying with them a peace they cannot explain. The last gift of the guardian who kept them safe through the silence of the night. In quiet attics, where forgotten trunks and dusty beams gather shadows, the cat sometimes lingers unseen. Its eyes glow faintly through cracks, and its purr hums low against the wood. Sleepers beneath these roofs feel the vibration in their bones, a steady rhythm easing them deeper into quiet dreams. When the night sky hides behind clouds, the cat provides its own light. Its fur glimmers faintly, casting a silver outline that moves slowly across tiles. Sleepers sense this faint glow without opening their eyes, comforted by the feeling that a light remains even when the stars refuse to show. Sometimes the cat slips into barns and stables, curling near resting animals. Horses breathe in slow unison, owls tilt their heads silently, and mice scurry without fear. Dreamers who imagine this scene feel part of that harmony, their own bodies settling into the same shared rhythm of peace. The cat moves like smoke across fences and rooftops. It never startles a bird, never disturbs a branch. Dreamers who picture this movement find their own thoughts thinning like mist. Their minds grow lighter, dissolving into the same soft drift, until there is nothing left but calm silence. In alleyways lined with cobblestones, its paws step softly on the stones, each touch as light as a whisper. Shadows stretch around it, but never threaten. Dreamers walking those same alleys in dreams feel no fear. Instead, they feel safe, guided by invisible steps that echo softly in their hearts. On rare nights, the cat tips its head toward the moon, eyes narrowing as if in greeting. The sky seems to respond, glowing more brightly in answer. Dreamers sense this quiet exchange and feel lifted, as though their sleep carries them higher, into places where stillness reigns and peace surrounds. The rooftops it crosses seem to sigh beneath its weight, though no sound escapes. Tiles settle, chimneys rest, and the air itself feels calm. Dreamers beneath these roofs stir once, then sink back into rest, held steady by the invisible guardian who moves above them in silence. Children who dream of the cat often see it curl at the foot of their beds. Its warmth spreads across the blankets, steady and soft. The sense of safety fills them completely, easing fears that linger in shadows. They drift with small smiles, wrapped in the comfort of its watch. In winter, when frost creeps across glass, the cat's body glows faintly with warmth. Sleepers sense this glow from afar, their rooms feeling softer, their dreams less brittle. They rest with the knowledge that the cold has been held at bay, replaced by the steady presence of the silent guardian. At times, the cat chooses to vanish entirely, leaving no trace except the hush it carried. Dreamers may never see it, yet they awaken with calm hearts, touched by something they cannot name. The watch remains even when unseen, a promise carried in the silence of the night. When fog drifts through the streets, the cat becomes only a pair of glowing eyes. Its presence is hidden, yet felt, steady in the mist. Dreamers sense this watchfulness, and their dreams take on the same gentle blur, edges softening until nothing remains but calm shapes and quiet shadows. The cat lingers on balconies where vines climb the railings. Leaves shiver gently as if greeting its presence. Sleepers below feel the quiet shift, their dreams becoming greener, filled with soft gardens where nothing disturbs. The air feels fresher, their breaths slower, carried along by the steady stillness. When it passes a fountain, the water seems to ripple less sharply, its splashes hushed. The glow of its eyes reflects in the surface, turning each drop into silver light. Dreamers imagine dipping their hands into this water, cool and calming, and the sensation carries them further into rest. At times the cat curls beneath street lamps, their light dimming around it. The glow of its fur and the glow of the lamp blend together until only warmth remains. Dreamers who drift through such scenes find themselves wrapped in brightness that does not dazzle, but softens their entire being. Inside towers, where bells have long gone silent, the cat sits upon stone ledges, its tail curled neatly. The silence thickens in such places, broken only by its steady hum. Dreamers wandered these towers in their minds, climbing stairs that never tired them, resting in the echo of stillness. Its shadow stretches across rooftops longer than its small body should allow. The shadow moves like liquid, covering the ground with calm. Sleepers feel their own shadows softened, no longer heavy, no longer sharp. Dreams lighten, becoming soft impressions that soothe rather than stir. Sometimes the cat walks across bridges in the night, its paws brushing dew from the stones. The river below reflects its eyes, twin lanterns gliding over water. Dreamers who cross that bridge in sleep feel safe between worlds, carried over flowing tides without effort, secure under its patient gaze. When it visits courtyards, its presence draws silence like a blanket. Leaves hang still, water rests in fountains, and stone paths grow warmer. Sleepers near such places feel cradled in their dreams, as though entire walls had risen to guard them, all held together by the hush of its watch. The cat has no master, no tether, yet it belongs to every sleeper. Each window it visits becomes a sanctuary, each roof a perch of care. Dreamers sense this quiet belonging and feel less alone. Their dreams unfold in shared silence, knowing that watchful eyes are near, even if unseen. At sunrise, its work fades into shadows once more. Yet, even as light spills into streets, the memory of its watch lingers. Sleepers wake with heavier breaths, their minds rested, their bodies stilled. The cat disappears, but its gift remains, woven into the hush of dreams. Beneath arches of ivy, the cat pauses, its eyes glowing softly. The vines rustle once, then settle into stillness, as though nature itself knows to be calm in its company. Dreamers resting nearby find their thoughts weaving into soft patterns, delicate and unbroken, leading them further toward deep rest. Sometimes the cat perches on weathered statues, its tail curled around stone shoulders. The silent guardians of the past seem to glow more kindly under its presence. Sleepers sense this harmony and feel as though history itself has softened, cradling them in stories untold, wrapping them in gentle peace. In fields beyond the town, the cat moves through tall grass, vanishing within the swaying stalks. The glow of its eyes flickers like fireflies. Dreamers wandering those fields in dreams feel their own bodies vanish into the same sway, their breathing matching the grass, slow and endless like the night. The cat rests on bridges where rivers murmur softly below. Its eyes reflect in the water, shimmering like two moons. Sleepers hear the quiet rush of water in their minds, carrying their thoughts away with the current until nothing remains but the steady calm of drifting toward silence. During snowfall, the cat's fur glows brighter against the pale flakes. It leaves no prints behind, moving as though part of the storm. Dreamers see the falling snow in their minds and feel the hush it brings, each flake settling on them like a blanket, pulling them closer to sleep. In libraries where books whisper quietly in their shelves, the cat curls on the highest ledge. Its eyes glow faintly in the shadows, calming even the words that stir in dreams. Sleepers feel their minds settle into hushed pages, each thought turning soft, becoming a story that guides them to rest. Sometimes the cat curls inside empty chapels, its body glowing against stone floors. The silence thickens until even echoes hold their breath. Dreamers walk in those spaces in sleep feel a peace beyond sound, as if the hush itself had become a companion, steady and endless in its embrace. In orchards lit by moonlight, the cat steps lightly among fallen fruit. Its paws stir nothing but scent, sweet and grounding. Dreamers breathe in that sweetness in their sleep, and the fragrance settles their thoughts. With each breath, they feel more at ease, sinking further into lasting calm. On rooftops, dusted with frost, the cat stretches, its body shimmering against the silver night. The frost glitters as if stirred by its presence. Dreamers sense this shimmer inside their dreams, a sparkling calm that glows gently before fading, leaving them weightless and wrapped in sleep. When the night grows longest, the cat never falters. Its watch extends without end, a steady presence in the quiet. Sleepers held by this unseen guardian rest soundly, their dreams untouched by fear. Though they cannot see it, they wake with the memory of peace, gifted silently through the hours. On nights when the air carries the scent of rain, the cat lingers by open windows. Its eyes glimmer in the drizzle, and its purr hums like distant thunder softened to a lullaby. Dreamers breathe into freshness, their worries washed away, replaced by a deep calm that carries them to rest. The cat sometimes curls atop wagons and carriages left idle in town squares. Its watchful eyes glow over the still wheels and wooden beams. Sleepers imagine a motionless ride, rocking gently without movement, a dream journey carrying them steadily into the comfort of sleep. Among stone walls covered in moss, the cat moves with ease, blending shadow and light. The moss glows faintly where it rests, touched by the softness of its presence. Dreamers picture themselves leaning against those walls, cool stone at their backs, the glow easing every strain and guiding them into slumber. When it crosses streams, the ripples seem to slow around its paws. The water grows glassy, reflecting stars and eyes alike. Dreamers see this mirror in their minds and feel their own reflections calm, each thought dissolving into ripples that fade until only silence fills the surface. In quiet attics filled with dust and forgotten things, the cat curls upon wooden beams. Its steady hum vibrates against the rafters, seeping downward. Sleepers beneath those roofs feel the vibration in their own bodies, a rhythm so steady it pulls them into rest, as if the house itself breathed calm. Sometimes it perches on weathered gates, watching fields beyond. Its gaze extends across the land, vast and unbroken. Dreamers sense this watch and feel their own boundaries guarded. Their sleep deepens, secure in the knowledge that something steady and patient watches over them as they drift into dreams. At times the cat enters dreams directly, padding softly across imagined floors. Its presence is neither startling nor strange. Instead, it feels natural, as though it has always been there. Dreamers follow its quiet steps into landscapes filled with peace, carried deeper with each purr that hums gently nearby. During nights when owls call, the cat listens silently, eyes glowing in reply. The two creatures share the night, their watch overlapping. Sleepers feel this balance, the hush of feather and fur, and their dreams grow steadier. In that shared guardianship, rest becomes unavoidable, like night falling across a meadow. In narrow lanes lined with lanterns, the cat walks steadily, its shadow merging with the glow. Each lantern seems to brighten faintly as it passes. Sleepers picture those glowing paths in their dreams, a road of light that carries them gently forward, step by step, into the quiet of slumber. As seasons turn, the cat never changes. Snow, rain, wind, and heat pass over its watch without breaking it. Sleepers find comfort in this constancy, knowing the guardian does not fade. Their dreams unfold with the same patience, lasting longer than hours, stretching into a stillness that feels eternal. When the town rests in deepest quiet, the cat becomes almost invisible, blending perfectly into the night. Only its eyes remain, two soft lights hovering above rooftops. Dreamers see those lights in their minds and feel reassured, guided by their steady glow toward the safety of unbroken sleep. In fields outside the walls, the cat sits among wildflowers, swaying in moonlight. The blossoms lean toward its body, glowing faintly as though borrowing calm. Sleepers drift into such scenes, the flowers nodding with each breath, their dreams swaying gently with the rhythm of petals moving under the night sky. The cat sometimes lies on church steeples, tail curled neatly, eyes glowing higher than the town below. Its watch stretches wide, covering roofs, rivers, and gardens alike. Dreamers beneath this vast gaze feel their own worlds protected, as though nothing could disturb their peace while the silent guardian remains. At night, markets long abandoned, stalls stand quiet, and banners hang still. The cat slips between them, resting upon wooden counters. Its eyes glow over the empty square, filling it with a softness the daytime bustle cannot hold. Dreamers sense this pause and fall deeper into dreams of calm silence. When stars hide behind clouds, the cat's glow takes their place. Its fur catches silver light unseen by others, scattering it gently. Sleepers in those hours feel this borrowed starlight on their skin, warming them as though covered by a soft quilt, their thoughts quieting into steady stillness. Sometimes the cat curls near wells, eyes glowing into the deep water below. Ripples shimmer faintly, carrying its light downward. Dreamers see those ripples in their sleep, spreading calm across their minds. Each ring grows wider, dissolving their worries until nothing remains but rest stretching outward like water. In meadows brushed with fog, the cat pads silently through the mist. Its body becomes a shape of light within the haze. Sleepers drift into foggy dreams, their minds wrapped in softness without edges, their breaths slower, their thoughts dissolving like mist curling in the quiet dawn. The cat rests on rooftops as snowflakes fall, each flake melting before it touches its fur. The warmth spreads through the air, wrapping the town in calm. Sleepers beneath heavy blankets sense that same warmth, their dreams filled with gentle light that shields them from the cold of the world. Near dawn, the cat pauses at its final perch, gazing across the still town. Its eyes shimmer once more, a farewell glow before fading. Dreamers stir but do not wake, held in the lingering hush of its watch. The night closes gently, leaving its care behind as the sun begins to rise. And so the cat that watches over sleepers remains unseen yet always near. Its silent steps, glowing eyes, and steady purr belong to every dreamer. Though the guardian vanishes with the light of day, its presence lingers in each breath of calm, ensuring that sleep is never without watchful care.